Welcome to Unfixed. This podcast explores the intersection of artificial intelligence and the institution of higher education. I am Zach Justice, Professor of Communication Studies and Director of Faculty Development.
And I'm Nick Janos, Professor of Sociology.
We are employees of Chico State, and we will discuss some of our work, but this podcast is not affiliated with Chico State, and the views expressed here are not representative of the university. Nick, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Me too. I'm excited for the launch of this project. Nick, how did we get started doing this?
Well, you and I have been friends for years, and over many times of just hanging out, our girls are playing, just having lots of conversations. But there was a time in, I think, December of 2022, just after ChatGPT launched, we were just hanging out in your kitchen, and we said, hey, did you see the news? And we just launched into a huge conversation about that. And we're like, the implications to us independently were just totally apparent.
Yeah, and I remember so distinctly that we had both read about it and heard about it. We hadn't really tried it. I think we grabbed one of my laptops from the other room and we just started dumping our assignments in there, and we're immediately having an existential crisis about what this meant for our teaching, for students learning. We were both kind of panicky.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like by the end of the night, maybe after a few drinks or whatever, we'd also mapped out like, what does this mean for the future of humanity?
Yes.
That's a topic we can get to later. But yes, right away, it was totally clear that from assignments to the structure of the university, like things were never going to be the same after the launch of the LLMs.
So from those initial conversations, we immediately started having conversations with other colleagues, trying to raise alarms with administrators that we were involved with. We started doing some writing, and pretty soon we were being hosts on podcasts and webinars and doing some writing even for Inside Higher Ed and some other publication outlets.
Yeah. And in January, so just like in the next month, just stepping back a bit, we had all these ideas, we were mapping them all out. But I think one of the first things we did in our conversations through December and early January was trying to figure out how will the university respond to generative AI. And we wrote a piece, the responses to ChatGPT. And we needed an outlet for that. So I had a domain already owned, and I was launching a blog. And so we pivoted that and said, let's just put it up on a blog and start sending it to whoever wants to listen and read it. And that became the basis of this sort of framework we developed right away to kind of map out the probable ways that people will react to this at the university. And I think that was sort of like the starting point of like thinking about this in a thoughtful way.
And so when we decided to do the podcast, in a lot of ways, it wasn't a new project. It was a return to where we started, which was you and I hanging out, sometimes with colleagues, talking through some of the problems with higher ed. So Nick, maybe you could tell the audience real quick what we're going to focus on and maybe what's not going to be as big of a part of Unfixed.
Yeah, so since the release of ChatGPT in November of 22, and now it's in the year 2025 when we're recording this, there's been a lot of focus on campuses about redoing assignments. That is, and you can go online now and find so many resources from webinars to publications and books and so on and so forth. So early on, Zach and I didn't want to do that. We wanted to actually talk about the sort of how artificial intelligence will accelerate structural shifts of the university itself, the institution of higher education. And that's everything from admissions, right? So admissions and how students actually apply, what we're looking for, all the way to advising, workload, how labor is conducted on universities from staff to faculty, things like assessment. How are we actually going to assess our students, and what kind of data can we get from assessing students if they're using generative AI to do part or all of their work, right? And then at the end, I think one of the things we're really interested in at the heart is, what does this mean at the core of the university? What is the university going to look like going forward?
So if you're looking for 5 cheap tricks to make sure that your students are writing their own posts, this ain't it. If you're looking for 2 guys talking with each other, bringing in guests, smart people that we know from this university and beyond to talk about the structure of the university, what it might be moving forward, and occasionally devolving into an existential crisis, you have found your home at Unfixed.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can find our writing on meltsintoair.org and connect with us on Blue Sky at meltsintoair.bsky.social and on LinkedIn, Zach Justice and Nick Janos. Find these links and more in the show notes. If you have feedback or want to share an idea, email us at unfixed@meltsintoair.org. Thank you to Jamie Gunderson for producing and editing the show.